Good morning and welcome to News Center. My name is Fatia Mohammed Noor. I want us to take a look at this interview where it is on the state of world cancer that was marked on February 4th. I had a conversation with Dr. Mohammed Ezi. He's a medical oncologist from the Karen Hospital. Let's listen into that conversation. We could go on the 4th of February, and in studio I have Dr. Mohammed Ezi, who is a medical oncologist from the Karen Hospital. We want to talk about the state of cancer in the country. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for the invitation.
Right, I think the most important thing now to just start off, cancer has been there for a very long time, but from your own analysis, would you say that the Kenyans have understood the level of awareness when it comes to cancer treatments, or like cancer as a disease in itself?
So in terms of cancer awareness, Kenyans have become more aware of the disease because there's been a lot of talk going about it in social media, in newsprints and various media outlets. So if you look at the cancer diagnosis, I mean, people are becoming more aware of the disease. Yet, so people have not understood what it exactly entails, because it's sometimes very difficult to understand what cancer means. So most people, if you tell them that they have cancer as such, for them it becomes really bad news as such. It's a death sentence to most of them. But I think so as the population is getting more knowledgeable, more educative, they've got access to information from various sources. So as a population, Kenya has become more aware of the disease. Yeah.
Right, so do you think sometimes when someone gets that information that they've gotten cancer, that stigma or just being scared about it makes them not actually proceed and get to the next level of treatment?
So that is something that people need. So that is actually happening. It's not. It also happens in urban areas. Once you get a diagnosis of cancer, many people will try to say, "No, something has been wrong. It is a wrong diagnosis. I need to go and have a second opinion, a third opinion." So because there's this stigma associated with cancer, and the stigma and the misinformation with cancer stigma is that most people associate cancer with death, like it's like end of life. The reason why there is a stigma with association, many people will try to keep that diagnosis with themselves, or not even mention with them, or there are some relatives and patients next of kin who would not even disclose the diagnosis to their patients as such, because they have this worry that if I tell my father or my mother, if I tell my sister or my brother that he or she has cancer, then probably they'll get into depression and die because of them being depression. They'll stop living as such. But that is not right. Cancer, when got in a good early stage, most people will tend to live after treatment, tend to live almost a normal life after cancer.
Let's talk about clinical diagnosis. Of course, there's been technology advancements all over the world, but specifically in Kenya, when it comes to diagnosis, how far are we in that advancement?
So, in terms of clinical diagnosis, Kenya has made great strides. There are a lot of innovative techniques that are almost at par at the rest of the globe in Kenya. We have got good diagnostic machines, good imaging techniques. We have got, you must have heard we've got things like PET-CT scans. So if you look at PET-CT scan, which is a very great tool in following up patients and staging cancer patients, if you remove the North Africa and if you remove South Africa, we would be the only country in Africa that would be having PET-CT scans. Currently, we have 2 PET-CT scans that are running, and then we have 2 more that are in the process of being installed very recently soon. So, also innovatives in terms of, if you look at our radiotherapy machines, okay, we have got some of the best radiotherapy machines in the country that compare with those ones found elsewhere in the world. Kenyatta University just recently installed a CyberKnife machine. That's one of the kind of machines. So if you look at in terms of treatment innovation, currently, if you look in the cancer world, there's a lot of talk going about immune therapy. It's a novel therapy that's making a great strides in especially lung cancer. And so those treatments are also available in Kenya. And also, so most of the hospitals and facilities like Karen Hospital and other facilities, they can provide these new techniques and technologies. And hence, in terms of Kenya, Kenya is making very great strides in catching up with cancer treatment and diagnosis with the rest of the world.
Right, but you know, treatment is very expensive, especially when it comes to cancer treatment. And let's say most of the Kenyans who are not, who are living in poverty and gets that diagnosis of cancer, where can they go to get, you know, because I know like World Health Organization really encourages early detection. But is there something like, for instance, Karen Hospital is doing to make sure someone who's not able to afford the treatment can be assisted?
Cancer is, I mean, if you do cancer treatment being expensive, it's relatively expensive because it's a long journey. Similarly, other diseases, other non-communicable diseases are also long-term. So cost comparison is very, sometimes the cost comparison is not so great. I mean, it's not that expensive. So cancer becomes more expensive if you diagnose the cancer at an advanced stage, at a later stage. The reason being, at later stages, the treatment becomes very prolonged. Because the whole intent of treatment changes. So in advanced stage, treatment will be for lifelong because you're using because the treatment is palliative, just trying to control the symptoms. But if you get the cancer at an early stage, the intent changes to curative. And for curative treatment, the treatment is almost for like an year or so, at the maximum an year or so. Okay, so that is why it is very important to get screened for cancers earlier. Very many hospitals like Karen Hospital are doing such screening activities. They organize medical camps in the rural facilities. They have satellite clinics. Most hospitals have satellite clinics up in the rural facilities that also encourage people for going for early screening tests. And early screening tests are not so expensive as the treatment case. So I'm a medical oncologist. By the time you are coming to me, I'm in the food chain, I'm the last one there. So by the time you are coming to me, you've been diagnosed with cancer. But most cancers, if you look at cervical cancer, which is like, and if you look at cervical cancer, which is like number 2 cancer in our setup, from the time you get symptoms because of cervical cancer, that means it means that you've been had the disease for the past 10 to 15 years. You've been staying with that disease for the past 10 to 15 years. It is now that the disease has spread, it is now giving you symptoms. So if you're doing regular cervical cancer screening, then those diseases will be caught up earlier, and early detection will just basically mean just require to do a surgery and I'll be done with it. I've treated you for your cancer.
Yeah. I mean, you know, most of the time when you hear cancer patients and they're talking about treatment, there's always that conversation about going to India, you know, once you get the diagnosis. Has Kenya got enough capacity when it comes to treatment of cancer?
Kenya has got more than enough capacity to treat patients with cancer. The government of Kenya, to the Ministry of Health, has decentralized its cancer care. About 10-15 years ago, the only places that used to offer a comprehensive cancer treatment was basically Kenyatta National Hospital and then a few private facilities in Nairobi. But now, the government of Kenya, to Ministry of Health, has put up regional centers. So there are like 6 regional centers. There's a Mombasa, and remote area like Garissa, even Nakuru. So these regionals, and they're building up more regional centers that also provide comprehensive cancer treatment. By comprehensive cancer center treatment, I mean that if you go to that place, it will deal everything from the diagnosis, imaging, treatment, palliative treatment, psychological help. So it deals with everything. That's in the same way we have HIV comprehensive centers. So that's one of the reasons. Now, the other perception is that people tend to go India, and they somehow feel that India turns out to be cheaper for them.
Right.
But if you look at in a real true sense, okay, It does not work out that. In fact, sometimes India becomes more expensive. The medicines and the treatment costs in India are cheaper. The reason being because the economy of scale. They've got like 1 billion people, and so that's and they manufacture their own medicines. While us, we don't have a big population, and we tend to import most of our medication. So that's a bit of where the cost actually goes up a bit. Okay. So, and the other thing, India is good at advertising itself as medical tourism.
Right.
So I think so. If those are if you put in steps to actually advertise ourselves as a hub for medical tourism, we'll get more patients, and we get patients from the rest of the Eastern African countries. We get patients from Congo, Rwanda, who come for cancer care in Kenya. So in terms of comparing cancer care with we are at par with India, maybe lacking in one or two things, but only that India has more of those facilities and a good economy of scale, so it relatively becomes in people's minds to be cheaper, and they have a very good advertising portfolio out there for medical tourism.
But with that said, do we have any successful, cases in Kenya where there was an early detection, a diagnosis, and a treatment that has been successful through?
So there have been quite a number of cases of that. Okay, if you look at breast cancer, which I deal with most of the time. Okay, if I detect a breast cancer in an early stage, and I do the requisite treatment required, at 5 year time, okay, that there is a 95% chance that that patient will still be alive and would not have died because of his cancer. Okay, but if I diagnose someone at an advanced stage of cancer, okay, and I put him in the requisite treatment, so there is at 5 year time, the chances reduce dramatically. It almost reduces to 50%.
Right.
So that means that at 5 years, only there's a 50% chance that you'll be alive because of that cancer. So that is why it is very important to detect cancer early, treat cancer, and then so that you give our patients a better survival than if you get the cancer at advanced stage.
Right. Let's talk about now. What's the most common cancer that you've seen in Kenya specifically? Is it breast cancer or cervical cancer?
Okay, so the most common cancer in males is prostate cancer. Okay, the most common cancers in female is breast cancer, and then followed by cervical cancer. Okay. The cancer that is usually having a lot of prevalence, if you compare to other countries, is our gastrointestinal cancers. We are attending, these are cancers of the esophagus, the food pipe, the intestines, the stomach. These cancers are on the rise in our setup, and they're almost like the top 3 cancers, which is not so common in other parts of the world.
Now, in terms of just prevention, as an oncologist, if someone is watching and wants to prevent getting cancer, is there any mechanism or something what someone can do?
So, if you look at cancer care, if you look at the whole spectrum of cancer care, so there is first prevention. I want you to prevent you from getting cancers. Then there is screening. The option of screening is that you don't have any symptoms, but I'm just doing some tests on you to see whether you have cancer at an early stage, so I can pick it up earlier. Okay, and then after screening, we have now treatment. Okay, that's the last stage.
Right.
So prevention is you preventing getting cancers at all. So prevention of cancer, the advice that we give as oncologists is not different from that advice a person who's dealing with diabetes will give you. It actually mimics and reflects the same thing. They will tell you about eating well-balanced food, healthy food. It is also we tell people to have health, lose weight, exercises, regular exercises, keep yourself healthy, eat healthily. Now, in Kenya, there are some cancers that are caused by viruses, okay? For example, there are some cancers that are caused by HIV, there are some cancers caused by hepatitis B virus, the human papilloma virus for cervical cancers, okay? So these cancers can be prevented. For example, hepatitis B, by giving hepatitis B vaccines to the patients. Okay, and the government has incorporated hepatitis B vaccine as part of the regular vaccines that we give to our children. Similarly, the government is now has put in place human papilloma virus vaccines. It is mostly given to young children in the preteens, and also given to adults. So these vaccines actually prevent you from getting those cancers. Okay. For example, if you look at the human papilloma virus, okay, in Australia this was done about 5 or 6 years ago, where they made it mandatory for their population to get those vaccines. They've reached a point where they're almost confidently saying that they've eradicated cervical cancer from their population.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that is what the world as large is trying to do, and they are putting in place is known as a 90-70-90, where they want 90% of their population to be vaccinated, because there's a chance of getting rid of this cancer altogether.
Right. As we finish up the interview now, like you said earlier, a lot of people consider cancer as a death sentence. So if someone is already suffering with cancer, is there any word of hope that you would give them?
So let me tell you, so having a diagnosis of cancer is not a death sentence. Okay? As I've told, there are some people with other cancers who are living a normal life in spite of having cancer. They are carrying out their daily activities as normally. So having a cancer diagnosis is not a death sentence. Okay? That is why the only difference is we want you to get your cancers in an earlier stage, because it gives you a better chance of survival. Okay? Like if you come to me as a cancer diagnosis, I would not tell now, friend, just go home, write your will, and it's nothing of that sort.
Yeah.
Okay? That right now treatments that are coming up, that's really changing the cancer outlook altogether. So having cancer is not a death sentence, but it's a difficult journey. And hence you require a very good support group to take you through that journey.
Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think that has been a very informative conversation even for me. That is Dr. Mohammed Eze. I got it right?
Yes.
He's a medical oncologist from the current hospital. Of course, the discussion was on cancer, because remember, this month, that is February, on 4th, the world marked the World Cancer Day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.